Okay, we're live. We're ready to go. What a crazy ride in real estate we've seen over the last couple of years, and this week is no exception. It's every week there's like something to report on, and you would think that all of this would get old, like there's nothing to talk about. But really, what we're going to talk about today is, we're getting the question, and I think it's easier on the buyer side. On the buyer side, it's a little bit easier because I think what's happened is we've actually having a buyer from the real estate side really didn't mean anything because there was so much competition. It'd be really hard to actually put somebody under contract because there was so much competition for each home. Inventory levels were incredibly low. We know that all the way down to 40 properties, and we always had like two or three plus buyers for each listing. And now it's different. In other words, we've got homes that are staying on the market longer. We're going to take a look at that today. We're also going to take a look at, some of the things that I'm hearing from just kind of on the street, just like, ears on the ground. This is what's happening. So we're going to share some of that. And, looking at, 234 homes on the market right now in the villages in MLS only. And a lot of sellers right now are asking, should I sell my home? Should I sell my home? Is now the right time to sell? Did I miss the right time? What can I do now that I'm on the market? Another question is I'm on the market. Um, is my home going to sell? What do I need to do to get my home sold? What are the numbers I need to look at? So we're going to explore that today. And we're going to just jump right into it because I think there's a couple of things that you need to know. So when you're hiring a realtor, you should, number one, hire a realtor. Number two, you should hire somebody that understands the numbers and understands the marketplace. So I think that's really, really an important thing for sure. I think anyway, right? So one thing I want to share with you is, months of inventory, like something we haven't looked at a lot, but months of inventory in our marketplace has changed, right? That's changed over a course of period of time. And what we're looking at right now, if you look at 2012 as we're coming out of the recession, Great Recession, 11 months of inventory on the market, meaning it would take 11 months for all the homes to sell if no more homes came on the market. So that's obviously, and then you're looking at, throughout the years, typical would be about 3, 4, 5, 6 months. This year, early part of this year, we saw, one, and actually looking at, 2021, looking at back in May, zero was a thing, 0, 0, 0. That means that basically it was just a couple of weeks of inventory. And then of course, one for the tail end of 2021 and then 2022, it jumped up to, two. That's what we're seeing right now. So you're looking at June, July numbers, basically looking at 2 months of inventory for both of those months. So we're seeing a shift in the marketplace, right? Typical was 3, 2, 4, 3, 2. If you're looking at 2018, 2019 months of inventory, and then 2020, when the pandemic hit and the shutdown was there, of course, we grew to 4 months of inventory. And then obviously it troughed from there, and then obviously bottoming out in the summer of 2021. So that's something to really pay attention to. Months of inventory, that's an indication of the shifting marketplace. Another indication of a shifting marketplace, if we take a look at this, we start looking at inventory. Let's take a look at inventory that's out there. Let's take a look at this. And this is obviously, we're doing this live. So this is my favorite thing to do because it gives everybody, it's not edited, it's not pre-produced or anything like that. New listings, 38 new listings this last 7 days, 25 closed. We had 28 price decreases. These are kind of very typical numbers. We did have a low, one of the lower numbers here, 23 under contract is a lowish number, meaning, we're probably about 10 off, I would say. Now, it is summer, so that's definitely a thing. The heat is a thing, but also just to give everybody perspective, I mean, we're in August now. July, to give you an idea of what's happened, not just in our marketplace in the villages, but pretty much in every marketplace. And I'm really looking at this not only in the villages, but also other areas of Florida, also other areas of the country. And I can tell you, I've had people run these numbers, and we're typically seeing right now, it's a very interesting dynamic. And the dynamic is this: it's um, lowest amount of sales for the month of July, lowest amount of sales for the month of July. And I'm not just talking about our company, Realty Executives, I'm talking about the entire market, the entire market. Also notice this in various markets around the state and some markets around the country. And I haven't checked all the markets, but I've looked at this. And what we're seeing is that the number of units, the number of homes that are selling on a monthly basis, and when we just take July 2022, and we compare it to July 2021, not year-to-date numbers, but the month only, and look at 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, the lowest amount of sales that have occurred in the marketplace, probably the lowest we've seen in 5 years. Now, that's the bad news or good news, depending on how you look at it. You're a buyer, it should be good news. As a seller, you might be thinking, that doesn't make me super happy. And what I've always promised is not necessarily to sugarcoat things and like everything's great, everything's wonderful. No, I promise to tell the truth, and this is what we're experiencing right at the moment. On the flip side, what we did see is obviously, average sales price has gone up tremendously. So the volume has kind of evened out. We've seen probably a 30 to 40% drop in number of sales in the month of July, but the number of the average sales price has gone up tremendously. So we're looking at a balancing out, which is not necessarily. I think we're going to see more of this in the future, like in the near future, the next, I'd say 6 to 12 months. I see less sales when you're comparing month to month. Like I think we'll see that August, September, October, November, December of this year compared to last year's numbers and the year before, probably for a good 3 to 5 years. So not terribly surprising, but what does that do when we start looking at, okay, I'm trying to get my home sold, what should I do? Like my home isn't selling. What can I do about it? And first of all, we need to make sure that our home is absolutely in fabulous shape, right? I think that's the first thing we need to look at is we need to make sure you can't have a home just like some homes back, early 2020 all the way through beginning of last year. It could smell like dog poo and it would sell. I think we have to avoid that situation. Make sure you get good curb appeal. Make sure that you've got it. If you want to stage it, it's probably a good idea. If you want to make sure that you've got candles, don't burn your house down, but make sure your home is smelling good is always very, very helpful. These are things that we really have to, we have to make sure that, your home is in fabulous, presentable shape. I think that's really, really important. So that's the first thing. The second thing we have to look at is when we look at, let's look at pricing. So we're going to look at, in this case, let me pull up, add Lady Lake in here, parts of the buildings in Lady Lake. So we're going to look at that, 234 active. So one thing I want to show you is the active days on market. Okay. And, so the current running total on some of these properties does make a difference. So we're looking at, this is organized by, not by price, but organized by days on market. And you're noticing that there's several here in the upper edge, upper price range, 988, 567, 899, been on a market for 165 days, 152, 141, right? You're noticing the days on market here that maybe we didn't see as much of this before, right? So that's something to pay attention to. So pay attention to how many days of that you've been on the market. I think that's a thing. And if everything is good, let's say you're getting some traffic, typically you're just a little bit overpriced. If you're not getting any traffic at all, you might be significantly overpriced. So you need to pay attention to that closely, but only if you need to sell. If you don't need to sell, then obviously you don't want to give away your property. You may want to rent it. We do have property management rental here, or you may want to keep your property. And that's another option, is wait for another day. So, but with increased inventory, of course, I wonder if it would be, if you're going to make more money next year or not. We don't know. a lot of it is very contingent upon, inflation, recession that we're in, and, interest rate indications. But the good news is that prices have held, right? Prices have mostly held. We've seen price reductions, but the price reductions typically have been, properties that have been priced way above where they should have been. Average sales price at the end of the year is probably going to be very similar. Maybe we'll probably see a little bit, I could see where prices will come down a little bit for people that must sell. So, motivation will obviously be key. Some of the properties here, and, we're looking at more properties. If you start looking at, 234, if we go to, let's go to 100, let's go to the median, which would be right at 117, and we go back, the median days on market are right around 35 to 35 days. Okay, so half the properties that are on the market right now are over 35 days or over, and of course half the properties are under that amount. But if we start looking at, let's take a look at the pending properties, and we looked at this before, but I think it's worth looking at again. So the properties that are under contract, there's 131 that are under contract, and you start looking at days on market. You start looking at, let's see, 100. So let's take the median there. So 131. Let's go to 65, something like 67, 17 days on market. So my recommendation is right around that 2-week period, right? Like you've got to look, 1 week, 2 weeks. These pending properties here. There's a lot of pending properties here. A lot that went under contract from 0 all the way to pretty much 10 days. You're looking at 80 properties out of the 131 that went under contract, under 10 days. I would really look at that. So if you're not close to getting an offer, or you're not getting enough showings within that 10-day period, and you're motivated. Remember, we're talking about motivated sellers, and you're a motivated seller. My recommendation is make sure that you are getting to the right price, and you need to be aggressive with the price. I'm not saying you need to give it away, but remember the one thing that, and this is something I'm talking to a lot of people about, is have a little bit of perspective. Remember that, let's say your home is, or would have sold, or your neighbors, get this, your neighbor sold for 425 and your house was better. You've been in it, and they sold in February, $425,000. And you're thinking, I've got to sell for 450. Well, that's no longer the case. So what we're seeing is now your home is probably worth 425, 415, right? Or something around that. I'm giving you rough numbers. Don't call me and don't call me and say, wait, Glenn, you said that my house isn't, I haven't seen your house, so forgive me in advance. So 415, let's say it's 415 to 425. And if you're not getting showings, then that's going to still tell us, okay, we might be a little bit overpriced. But also remember this. So remember that example, the comps, the sold properties, recent sold properties, maybe 3-4 months ago, 425. Your home could be worth 415-ish. Ballpark, like approximately a little bit less than that home that sold down the street. It's possible. That's what we're seeing. I'm seeing real life examples of this. And remember what your home is worth back 2019 before the pandemic. It was probably worth 310. So a little bit of perspective. If you're a seller, you probably missed the peak. 99% sure that you missed the peak in the marketplace. So if you're not motivated and you're only hoping that you're going to hit the peak, then you probably should just hold your home, because trying to time the peak is darn near impossible. You could be really good at coming close to it, but it's darn near impossible. It's really difficult. And as well as the trough, if you're thinking about buying. So, buy for motivation, sell for motivation, buy for change, significant life changes, that type of thing, things that are really, really important. And it's still a really good time to sell, but just know that the time on market is going to take a little bit longer. Have some patience, but also know that if you get past a certain period of time, nothing changes, you haven't done anything different, no price reduction, And if you don't sell in those first 10, 15 days, unless it's a unique property, unless it's a specialty home, I'm thinking of one specifically that was the case, then you could be on the market for a while unless things change. One thing that has changed this week that could change, we could be talking about something different next week. By the way, interest rates being lowered. The Fed actually went up a couple weeks ago. We know they're not directly tied together, interest rates and what the Fed does, but they're loosely related. Interest rates, mortgage interest rates went down. So that's actually inspired some people to jump in the market. So that's something to think about. If you have any questions, leave your comments here. Love to hear what you think. Some people don't agree with what I'm saying. Some people do, and I think that's fine. Leave your comments here. But I also want to mention something I want to bring up. You can call me, by the way, 352-572-3796, or come by our site. You just want to poke around. Even if you're not interested in buying, you just want to know what's going on with your property. You could just go to buysellthevillages.com and check it out there. That's the latest properties on the market. We're doing this. This is actually the POA magazine. I was looking for this before. The black and white ball. We are sponsoring. The last couple of years, we've been sponsoring Alzheimer's in some form or fashion. The proceeds for this particular benefit, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a formal event. It's not cheap, by the way. This is probably one of the most expensive things. I think it's a couple $100 that we're selling each ticket for. But it's going to be a formal event, and all the proceeds benefit Alzheimer's. Some of you that are into formal events here locally, that's going to be November 12th. You can call our office. Actually, there's a number here, a special ticket number, 352-255-5890, 352-255-5890. If you know someone that's been affected by Alzheimer's, it's actually a fabulous cause. So that's what we're pushing from now until November. Hope everybody has just an absolute fabulous weekend.